on the move. Little dance step was good. Couple of bounces. Can take it himself and launch long. Inspirational.
Time ticking away. Stop it. For Silvani. What about that?
Mackay. Two in a minute. And they are dancing now, the Blues.
Almost Mackay. Walsh, here he is. Straightens up and has delivered. Is there nothing this young man can't do?
Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Lachy, taking the hosting duties this week, while Ian deserves some R&R and some beers up on the Gold Coast. But in his place, I'm lucky enough to be joined by my good mate, lifelong bagger and Big V basketball extraordinaire, just quietly, JRob. Thanks for being here, mate.
Thank you, Lachy. It's a pleasure. Got the call up late, which is okay. Used to being in that position. But no, look, first time podcaster. So I guess a couple of rooks with you with the hosting duties and me coming into the potty.
That's it. We're learning together through this one. And I mean, you've been begging me since the inception of the podcast to make an appearance. So it's about time that you make an appearance. But what better week, I guess, for you to come on when I knew that I had to get a replacement and you were the first on my list, of course. And we were talking about this game. It's like, gee, it could go either way. Our tails are up after last week, but it's like we could be dealing with a loss here, and then we deliver that.
I know. What a performance. It was, there was some nervy times, absolutely. But, kind of feel like a bit on cloud nine at the moment. I'm sure plenty of baggers feel the same way. But I think what I'd like to do is keep your lid on throughout this episode. I was listening to a few comments and callers on SEN the morning after the game, and lids are off around the country, I would say. Lids are off. But I would like to bring just a bit of balance to the show this week, because I know you're going to be firing up and purchasing tickets in advance for September. So yeah.
Well, I mean, before the season, we ran through our all right, let's look at each game. Which ones we're winning, which one we're putting an L to. And we ended up we thought around 12 and 10 was where we were going to be, around 8th. And that was with a win against Richmond and then a loss against the Bulldogs. So it's pretty hard to not already jump ahead like that. I know when we were speaking to CJ, she reckons that we're premiers. She's locking that in. I'm trying to keep that lid on. But it's just so hard.
The P word. It's one that I'd say fans at our age bracket haven't had the luxury of mentioning. Although I was there in 2013, that fateful day for G against the Tigers. So that was pretty special, to be honest. Like when you hear that, it's been that long ago, that long since we broke that drought, and then to back it up and go 2-0, first time in 10 years, you do start to feel that something special is happening. I was at the Doggies game last season, and it almost looked like the same thing was happening, didn't it? And we were able to just show something new, show another layer, soak up a bit of pressure. Obviously made our mistakes, but a new look sort of outfit from the boys this season.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Certainly some very nervy moments as we got through the game. And you're right, it was eerily similar to that performance. And the things that we've seen our team do over these past few years when we kind of get our hopes up and we jump to these leads and then we get these big swings. So that's just another reason why I'm so proud of this performance, because it shows that it's a different year this year and we're getting that maturity and we're getting those cooler heads to be able to deal with the pressure. And we're always going to need some luck, and their goal shots at the end were pretty awful. But good teams find a way just to get the wins on the board. So, I mean,
that they do. Yeah, look, you had the luxury of watching it live. I should probably get it out of the way. You've described as a lifelong blue. So it's probably not great to say I couldn't watch it live. I was unfortunately at basketball training, which you've alluded to me playing, which is great. Didn't expect that, but I did have to play, and we're sort of that 7 to 10 p.m. bracket, which of course is the worst thing in the world on a Thursday. We've got 2 Thursday night rounds to start the season. So I actually feel a little bit different to you, but having watched the game, the full replay, I wasn't as nervy, obviously, in that fourth quarter. But what I did notice is just, the speed at which the Dogs kicked back was slower. I just felt like we weren't the Blues that got beat out of the middle, contest after contest, clearance after clearance, and all of a sudden 6 goals were piled on. I think we really made the Dogs work for each one of those goals. That they definitely came back, and they're a runner-up in the premiership sort of side, so they weren't anything to smirk at. But I just noticed it was a little less intense, their way that they kicked back. So it was nice to see that. Maybe because I knew the result, there was a little less stress on the line. How were you feeling on game day?
I am so envious of the position that you're in, because I was very ready to walk out of the apartment. I was very ready to pause the KO stream so that I could skip ahead later on. It was a stressful moment, but then in the back of my head, I'm like, look, this is the kind of game we shouldn't be expecting to win this one. It's like against Richmond, it was like, we don't want to have to start the season again 0-1. And in this one, it's like, this is a luxury if we get this win. And if we fall over, like, it's kind of like the same old thing, and that'll be disappointing, but we know that we're still heading in the right direction. But just getting the wins on the board, it's just so important. And I think some of the players and coaches mentioned that as well. It's like, I think it might have been Ash Hansen in the press conference actually talking about, you can tell the players all week, you're doing well, we're heading in the right direction, like this is all great. But if the W's aren't racking up and you're not getting the points on the board, then it's hard to keep that belief. So it's just so nice to have broken that trend. And we're just set the season up so nicely.
Yeah, it's almost great timing. I know, obviously, with the COVID protocols, it's been an awkward week for the Blues, but it's almost great timing to throw a bit of a challenge like that at us early, because it really did show me, are we up for all, the whole season? Because COVID's not going anywhere. Those protocols can be thrust in at any moment. Losing Vossi, the head coach, probably some people, some fans external to the Blues would have expected us to just roll over and lose that week. And
for sure.
Yeah, I think just knowing that it doesn't matter who's in the coaching box at that particular time, it really does depend on the way, the players hold up on the field. That was impressive for me. And I think just being able to see a desperate, determined team on the park was great, because we did get challenged, but it just seemed like, even though we did make mistakes and we did, get through with a bit of luck, the boys really wanted to win. Like, they actually really wanted to keep pushing and keep going. And without Vossi at the helm, I think that shows that there is a little bit of potential there for this season, because it's on the boys. They're carrying this with them.
Couldn't agree more. So when you were watching it back, what comes to mind is, like, what were the biggest positives, like in terms of individual players or just what you were seeing? Yep. What was it that made you most pleased?
Well, we would have heard a lot in the wash-up just how great it was at the big talls. They fired on all fronts, especially coming off a week where, some would have sort of doubted their effort and just what they were doing against the Tigers. But to see, 9 goals piled on by big forwards a week after they didn't kick many was great. So I thought Big H probably got things started, and then Charlie sort of sprinkled his brilliance, throughout the rest of the match. And great forwards, great targets. And I think the great thing about the small forwards is, though they didn't hit the scoreboard much, Always' connection with Big H. Tell me about that. I mean, there's something special brewing there. Do they live together? Do they get coffees together?
We need to go deeper on that.
We need to go deeper on that, because Always was just putting it down H's throat. And it was great delivery, especially, their forward 50 pressure. Durden, Always gave us something when they weren't scoring those goals from those crumbing opportunities. And I was really impressed that we can have 2 different dynamics 2 weeks back to back like that, and still hit the scoreboard and still kick over 100, which we also haven't done back to back for a very long time. So that was something I saw, and I think that the small forwards really worked that pressure early, and just across the ground, also just wearing the Dogs down. I don't know how everyone else felt, but it just seemed like we were bashing and crashing and consistently, making the Dogs earn every possession, every contested possession. Lot of sore bodies, from Pitto just sort of sitting on people, Cripps with the chase down tackle. And Durden, he was really nailing blokes there. It was fun to watch, and it was good to know that we're not just going to let a side roll through the middle without feeling something and without putting a body on. And I just feel like maybe that had something to do with why the pace of like their comeback was kind of deterred just a little bit. It was kind of grinding them down, and they weren't able to get so free and just kick a flow on of 6 or 7 goals. So those are the things standing out. How about from yourself?
Yeah, the forward line part, that was genuinely my number one thing as well, because reflecting on this match and in the lead up to the game, there was media talking about, Charlie was worst on ground in round 1. Like, he couldn't get near it. He was fumbly, and looking at it in a positive lens too, people being like, oh, look, Carlton got the win and McKinley kicked 1 goal and Curnow didn't do anything. So pleasing that was just like a full by committee performance. And it was like all the mids getting involved, pretty much every midfield kicked a goal. And then this week, it's like Harry, Charles, and Sauce kicks a couple. It's like the tall forwards, it's all you with the goals. It's so nice to have that diversity, because that was one of the worries last year for me, where it's like, gee whiz, any game where Harry is not firing, you could pretty much knock that down as an L. Like,
absolutely.
Because he was amazing, but now that diversity is there. I'm gonna just chuck a bit rogue, but I thought Fogarty, as someone who a lot of people weren't super. Here we go. This is good.
Here we go. This is going to be contentious here.
Well, maybe we have a different opinion on this, because I saw a lot of people. I saw a lot of people were disappointed when he was the one to come in, and he definitely wouldn't have been probably in my top 3 to come in to that role. I just felt like he, without being exceptional, did everything or did most things right in terms of being involved in goals, being that link up in the chains. And we're in this position now where you look at the sheet and half of our players had 20 plus disposals. Unheard of for us. We don't necessarily need, though, every single player to be that high possession winner. This is something Ian and I talk about a fair bit.
Yeah.
Now that we've got the elite guys in there, we need people to play their roles. And that Silvani's never going to be that 20 guy, but he's reliable. And there was some signs here where I thought, okay, Fogarty is being that more role player type of guy, where during the preseason, I'm like, I don't think he really has a place at all. But after this performance, I can see a world where he does fit into the system. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
Look, I think that's fair. I think he can fit into our system. I just think if I'm looking at his performance on the night, he was good. He was good at the link-ups. I found him a touch quiet, maybe just a touch unnoticed. And maybe this is what you're getting at, is that not everyone has to have the X factor. I just love seeing it. I just love seeing like sort of depth and X factor in a lot of players. And I know that's probably unreasonable to think that, all 22 have to have that X factor. But I looked at Fogarty and I just thought there were moments where, I don't know, he just left me feeling like a little bit to be desired from his effort. I know he always goes hard at it. And God, I think rounds 1 through to 4 started last year, I was one of his biggest fans, because he was giving us, inside forward 50 pressure. He was hustling hard. He was putting the big blocks and big tackles on. So I think it's probably just one of those games. Just didn't have his best game. Tough to do when you've got four mids over 30s and going high numbers, very high numbers. So I get that, and it's not a bad problem to have. With our ins and outs. I think for the first time, and we won't jump too far ahead, there's plenty I want to chat about ins and outs and injury lists, but I think it's not bad to have this problem, to be a bit, sort of in one camp or not in that camp, and for that not to affect our outcome. We've won the game. So it's good to be able to talk about Fogarty and where he sort of sits and what his upside might look like. And if it doesn't work a couple of weeks in a row, and I don't think we need to pull blokes out week in, week out. If you don't have a good game one week, pull you out the next. I think that's difficult to find consistency. But, he's probably one of the blokes that I'd look at in the next couple of weeks to see, where we're at with him and what the potential is. But that's a good call. Can I cast your mind over Setterfield then, and just what you made of his performance on the night?
Yeah, I feel like you're setting me up here to tear me down. But I mean, with those, this is another one of the pleasing things for me is the guys that were kind of still the question marks. Like, I feel like this was one of these seasons where we had the fewest question marks on players in recent memory, where there's more and more guys like Kennedy, for instance. He's someone that over the past few years, we're like, gee, is he best 22 or not? There's no chance that he's anywhere around that question now. And it's blokes like O'Brien and Setterfield that are the ones where it's like, okay, the wing position, we know it's one of our weaker spots. Are they going to put their hand up and own it? And at the moment, 2 games in, I know I'm lumping these two together. They're both big ticks for me.
Cool. Okay. I agree with you for Lachy. And I think the good thing about Lob is Richmond versus Dogs game. He was far more in it in the Dogs game. I think he was definitely playing his role really well for us. He was active. Yeah, he made a few mistakes, but not for, lack of trying. And I think I'm starting to see where he fits into that role, and I'm starting to see him being one of those contributors and role players. And the good thing is I got through the end of the game and thought Lob's not on my hit list.
Yeah.
Because I know we all have our own hit lists.
Yeah, I mean, many still do have him on there.
Absolutely.
So we're probably in the minority there, honestly.
Yeah, I think this is his moment. We're no good sort of playing him against the Tigers and then saying that's it, his last chance. I think we give him a month and a half, and if we're not seeing what we want, then there's an opportunity to talk about replacing him. But I think Setterfield for mine is the one where he has had ample opportunities. He's probably had more time, in that role last year than Lob, and probably the year before that. And so I kind of question what his role is. There was a moment in the game, and it wasn't too far between 2 turnover kicks just on the wing. It just seems like his role. I don't know if this is his direct role, but when he got it on the wing, he was just booting it, clearing it, just kicking it to absolutely no one. And I just felt like we have players that we can distribute that footy to. We have an option to take the game on. And I'd rather see that than Setterfield sort of just looking to do the clearing ball out on the wing. Because then I think, if that's his role, we can actually replace that quite easily with someone who is going to get us a bit more of a better option than that. So, I just kind of noticed that was his first instinct. If he's on the wing, there's a marginal bit of pressure. He's booting it out on the other side. It then tends to be a switch kick after, it's an intercept mark, and then we're outnumbered. And, Dogs actually did that quite well, going from side to side and then finding the open. And I felt like some of the turnovers from Setterfield particularly were causing this this weakness for the Dogs to attack. So, I'd have to see that sort of stamped out of his game if I'm really to feel like he's the right player for that role. I think we've just got too many people on the injury list and ready to come back as well. Namely Martin and players like that may see Setterfield sort of sit in the emergency list for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that is so spot on, and I completely agree with that analysis. It's kind of the Ed Kerno for a couple of years ago, where it felt like every time he got the ball, it wasn't a look, it was a bomb. And I had that feeling with Setterfield as well these last couple of weeks. But I think the issue, I suppose, with that wing spot, I'm not putting him as a tick, as in I think this is his role, lock him in. But at this stage, I know we can probably talk more about this with the ins and outs. There's so many blokes that could have a crack at that position where it isn't their natural one. Is there guys that aren't in the team or guys that are in the team that you think should be tried there if he was to come out? And I completely agree with your point as well, kind of related to Fogs, where it's like, I'm a big advocate for, if we're winning, don't make changes on form unless there's, really, really bad things. Like this week, I'd hope that we'd only replace on injury. But yeah, like, is there guys that come to mind? Because Ian and I have probably thrown about 18 blokes. Do you have? Is there a guy where you're like, why aren't we giving him a go in that starting wing?
Well, it's difficult because I get it. Like, it's not our strongest spot, but without going too heavy on ins and outs. I mean, Martin obviously comes back, right? And I would make a case for like Setterfield, like can just jump out of that team and Martin can go into that role. But that's a big call. I don't know if that's something they've trained, if that's something that they've practiced. That's really like we don't get that insight into who else is being built up to be that wing placement.
For sure.
So it'd be great to just say that anyone could do it, that we prefer as an option. But look, I'd say give him another week. But like if I see the same sort of stuff and we God forbid we start taking L's because that's never going to happen, right? But
No, I can't say a word where that happens.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Look, if I ever do get another run here, or maybe I'll just get active on Twitter. That I told you so. But I told you so. Look, just keep it as a note that Set is on my hit list, and we'll just see what he does in the next couple of weeks. I won't throw him out to the scraps just yet.
For sure. And I think the last kind of point on him, guys like, I don't know if this is a fair assessment or not, but maybe guys like Dow, where it feels like when they underperform, they do, or he doesn't seem to be one of those in favor kind of guys. Whereas I feel like Setterfield is more in that list where the coaches do give him these opportunities when he's healthy. So, and to your point, maybe there's things behind the scenes that we're not seeing as well, whether it's training the house down, whether it's whatever it is that is giving him this spot. And at least for me, I'm not like, get him out of here, delist the man. Right now.
Well, he's one-dimensional, Lachy. He clearly doesn't make a lot of noise at the club. Easy to fit in, easy to miss. Lossie's probably forgot he's out on the wing in the first place, so he's just snuck in for a couple of games. And we'll see what happens. But maybe I'm being too harsh. But I'd love to know some feedback from the listeners whether my assessment of Setterfield is too harsh, that he shouldn't be playing.
No, I'm sure there's plenty that are on your side, but it's a nice feeling when at least the guys that we, the ones that stick out as not being the strongest performers still are at least around a pass mark. And it's not these situations where midfielders are having 7 touches and, that kind of thing. So
no,
which probably leads me on to
that's a good segue, mate. Very good.
Like it's such a great position that we're in now. I know it's all just numbers, but we can't talk enough about Cripper. Walshy coming back first game, 30 touches. Hewitt looks like he's going to be 25 touches a week lock. Kennedy's come out of nowhere and still Chera to come back. What can you say about this midfield mix? Because it's unheard of for us.
Yeah. Isn't it just a pleasure? Like we'll get the numbers out of the way. We're averaging up near 400 a game. 400 disposals. And God, it's just marvelous to watch. It's good footy. We hunt, we're in packs. We really attack the footy. Hewitt, who was a bit of a sort of in my blind spot in preseason, is just absolutely facilitating and playing magnificent footy, getting it to Batman and Robin. The connection, it's just great to see. It's just great to see the connection and great to see Walshy just rolling around and not having his best game, but somehow telling, high 30 touches and, but he just does all the stuff that you can't, you don't have the beauty of seeing on KO week in, week out. But no, the connection's just fantastic. And look, it goes without saying 2 weeks in, Cripps is back. He's back. And I'll put my hand up and say, I'm sorry. I was strong on him last season, and as I think you should be of your leaders and your players that are meant to be setting the tone. Leading from the front. Like Cripps was a wounded blue last year, and I think honestly, best not to underplay the effect that has on the players. You've had your contested winner, your ball winner, undisputed MVP at the club for the last sort of 7-8 years, go down and have a season like that, and sort of back-to-back seasons almost, because
Oh yeah.
Wasn't amazing in the previous season. And then to come out and have 2 weeks like this where he looks leaner, looks a bit cut, like he looks quite smooth, still strong, still a bull, but just moving in a way that we haven't seen for a long time. It's good to see because you feel like Cripps has got his mojo back, and the Blues just feed off that in the middle. It's just good news week in the midfield for Carlton, isn't it?
I haven't heard enough people talking about this, but have you noticed when he's lining up for goal, the head over the ball, and he loves that he's doing the old head over the ball, kick the ball, and still watching the boot. Like that's like that under 10 stuff that I remember.
No, yeah, I know.
And no one does it. No other players do it. As soon as they kick it, they're straight looking up at the goals. Cripper is so locked in, like the goal and just like the goal kicking. Another thing, being involved, the goal assist, the meters gained. He's a new player.
Yeah, he is, and I think like obviously it got to him what everyone thought of his goal kicking last year, and you and I would have been much the same. We're sitting there watching the game. Cripper's marked it. He's 35 out on a slight angle. Like, oh my God, like he's going to miss this. And you don't want to be feeling that, because if we're feeling that and we're watching that, like, you know, like what are the players thinking? They go, oh, here's Rick, you know, shit, this could go anywhere. And that's what I mean. Like he's clearly gone away, worked on like a weakness area.
Yeah.
And that's a weakness area that's like a morale, like real morale issue for the team. If you know that a player's got weakness in front of goals, he can have 35 touches. If he goes 0-4 from goals, that's a big impact on our side. So to see him getting goals, like continuing from the stoppage to run through and get the hands from the small forwards to finish off some work inside 50. I mean, that's what you love from your leaders. You love seeing that. And it was good watching Dunkley in the dust sort of behind Rick as he brought it home. And I think probably important to note, he was the catalyst, because that goal set off the run. And a lot of the work when we needed someone to stand up in the contest when the Dogs were coming was a Rick contested disposal. So I thought he brought such a strong vibe to our team on the week.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I hope, you know, where the sample size is growing, and he's just going to keep putting these together, and then the non-Carlton people will finally admit that he is back. And it's good. It's just nice that, I know we know. We know.
We can see that. It's all good.
So many, just so many other pleasing performances. As I looked down the stat sheet, I thought, 27 disposals from Williams. I know I've only watched it on the night. I thought that was a pretty quiet 27, maybe. I didn't really notice him being the fifth most touches for Carlton. But what do you think of his game?
I thought he was our get out of jail free card quite a few times on the night. So, I just thought Williams was there when we needed him. Another cool head, able to get in there, get in, get out pretty quick. When the pressure was coming from the Dogs, I felt Williams was one of those guys down back that really held us up. And especially on a night where Wiedering probably didn't have his best game.
Right.
And, like Nort was flying at everything, but it was coming in a different way. And I just thought, interested to hear your take if there's anything wrong with Wieders. I know it's probably a big call, but he just probably didn't have his best game. But I think Williams really stood up and showed that he's comfy off the half-back line.
Yeah.
And probably the good thing is we don't need him to be a midfielder. If he's probably thinking to himself, like, I want to reinvent myself and be a midfielder, then okay, like, he's probably just got to realize that's not set up for him right now. But look, should anything happen, touch wood, and we need him to go through there. I thought his ball use was pretty efficient, and he was a calm head down back, so that was good from him.
Great call. That hasn't crossed my mind this season. I mean, remember the uproar a year ago when we had to move him back to half back, and everyone's like, we brought this bloke in as a midfielder. Why aren't we playing him in the midfield? Yeah, you're not hearing any whispers about that, because if he's doing his roll down back and we're getting the performances in the midfield, it's cruisy. And with Saad back there, I don't think I've ever seen. I still have yet to see Saad lose a 1-on-1, which is just fantastic. so reliable. And yeah, the Weeders thing is interesting. I agree. There seem to be some un-Weeders like moments in the game. I think we're still yet to really understand the difference that not having Jones brings to him.
That's fair. Yep.
Because of that small sample, and obviously McDonald going down and Big L Plough coming on, which I'm keen to hear if you have any thoughts on that too. A bit of a contentious sub selection for a few, but yeah, yep. I mean, Ian and I spoke about this in the preseason where I thought Weeders was on best and fairest for 2022 trajectory, and it's hard to kind of feel that way after 2 weeks where it doesn't feel like he's going to have those moments where he can shine and take those big intercept marks and the like that Jones kind of aided him to do. That it's still possible, but it seems like he is going to be a bit of a different player this year, having to burden a bit more responsibility.
He's so strong, like he's so big, and you often forget, like he's not the fastest down there, by any stretch, but I think he loves a contest. It suits him, but I'm interested to know the height difference between him and the Nort. I reckon Nort obviously got him by a few centimeters, but it's just moments like he just looked a touch smaller and, just missed a bit of timing at some stage. And you're right. I think it's a new dynamic down back. Doesn't help that Stock hurt himself in preseason. So he obviously would have been, in that mix. And not that he's picking up any tall forwards, but whether he's just playing a role to assist there. I think we haven't had that worry down back, for a while, because it has been pretty locked up and pretty good there with Jones and Weeders. So be interesting to see, because I know a lot of criticism for the Dogs is they're pretty one-dimensional with the Nort and with Bruce out, that there wasn't much there for them. And so when we come up, against 2 talls, so I'm thinking, D's and others, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and if we've got, some insights there. But as for the moment, play on.
How many wins on the trot before Jonesy goes back to the club and says, "All right, get it"?
Yeah, look, I know this is a public forum, so I'm not going to be too critical of personal choice.
Of course.
But you would, I mean, I know he was a love player at the club, and I'm sure they're still very close with Jonesy. Is it a shame that, he's not able to engage with this sort of, winning vibe at the start of 2022 after the couple of years? Like he was completely serviceable and he was really awesome for us. So it's a shame that he's kind of missing out on that. But seeing as he has played a role in keeping it together as well. But that's just life. Things happen, and he's entitled to do whatever he wants. So, and it's just got its own sacrifice.
Completely agree. Another thing that I kind of noticed, I guess, about the clearance dominance wasn't as much of a clearance dominance in this game as there was with Richmond. But I feel like Pitternet and TDK. It was a big one during the preseason and we've been talking about this for the longest time. What is the talls combination that is going to get us to the premiership? Like, is having Pitt, TDK, and 2 talls forward going to work? How are you feeling about that at the moment? Because there was times in the preseason where I was like, I think it's a 1 ruck. Let Sauce do a bit. Let Harry do it up forward, and that's what we need. But at least for me, I'm pretty happy with how it's going, but I'm open to being persuaded.
Pitt is most improved for me, like these last 2 weeks. I think
love it.
We probably looked at Pitt as just making up the ruck for us in seasons gone by. I think this year Vossi's game plan is suiting him because he's got it very clear. Go up for the tap, try and get it to the mids, and put a body on and block the crap out of and so bash some bodies in the midfield, and he loves that role. I just looked at him at various points throughout the night, just lining someone up, fairly and cleanly, and just that just being such a difference because we had got this sort of a pack mentality and we're swarming, and Pitto's just trying to lighten the numbers that we're up against, I think that's great. And I think he is just as strongly a part of that midfield group as the blokes winning the ball. And I think that's important for us. He obviously needs a break. Tim English had a good game. Tim English did some things there where, he did cause a bit of trouble for Pitt and for TDK, but did having two talls wear English down, to not be as prolific. And is that something that having two talls, with the game style that we're going for, which is pretty, crash, bash, hunt, it's pretty full throttle. I think Vossi's got a good idea on what that mix is, and we're seeing this tested out right now. Great thing about Harry and Curnow up forward is they're not the same player. Curnow's agile, very agile. And I know Harry's been shaving seconds off his sprint with the what's the speed project, whoever it is that he works with on the off season. So he's shaving seconds off. So I'm not saying he's not agile as a big, over 2 meter tall forward, but Curnow plays that lanky, athletic, springy sort of around the centre half forward area. And Big H just clunks anything you kick at him. So I like that there's even a difference between how those talls are working in the forward. So I don't actually see Big H and Curnow as part of the 4 talls of like TDK and Pitto. I just see TDK and Pitto on one side, and then we've got our forwards there working with the crummers and the small forwards. So as long as those two dynamics are working and there's a bit of synchronicity there, and the connection between mids and forwards is still strong, I love having all those guys. And the thing about everyone, probably bar Pitto, is they have extreme X factor. When TDK is coming up for a mark,
for sure,
he's jumping on people's backs and he's doing crazy stuff. And Curnow's, single-handedly, winning us the game. You just got to love those moments. So I think having those players that the team loves, clearly all the boys, love being around these guys, and the fans love it. I think just keep those vibes rolling until we see otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not wanting to mess with this while we're obviously flag favourites after these 2 games. But yeah,
there it is.
I know you love your X Factor players, and that's so true about what I suppose TDK is now, where he's still like he has those moments, and then I feel like he's a bit of a Lachy Fogarty at other times, and I'm not sure where he is. But I suppose it's just it's the opportunity cost for me of say he was to come out. And it's a few extra centre bounces for Pitt. If he can handle that workload, then that's great, because we would probably agree that he's a stronger tap ruckman at this stage. Maybe there's a couple for JSOS, which we like when he's around the ball a bit more. And then what's that? That's a Kemp that can come into the side, or maybe it is Stocker who is supposedly maybe right this week, or so it's who we're keeping out to have him in. I definitely don't want to mess with it right now, but I worry that we know that TDK has all Australian ruck potential. I just worry that how he is right now, is it the biggest? Is it the winning formula having them both? It's working now, but
are you saying is it too early for him?
I mean, potentially. I mean, it's working now, but I just wonder whether. And I'm sure these are the things that the discussions going on behind the scenes, and we've tried it, but
look, and that's fair enough. I just think like at this stage, you need to still get games of elite footy into someone like that, because I mean, yes, he's touted as being, all Australian ruckman in a couple of years, but he's not going to get there unless he plays footy. So if we can kind of secure our future by getting away with winning outcomes at the moment and get footy into this guy, I think it's only going to serve him, positively for the rest of the season and for his next few years. And Pitto won't be around forever as well, will he? He's that sort of kind of utility that we needed, held us up during the COVID years. I sort of see those 2 seasons as the COVID years and just merge them all into one, because there wasn't much to take away bar Coleman. But I think Pitto's not going to be there forever. So I think the more that they can work together and get experience into TDK, then the better Carlton will be long-term as well. But I hear your point. we need to win the flag. So,
What other takeaways do you have on your extensive list of preparation there, JRob? Because I know you're more prepared than most that come on this show.
Look, I took this seriously, mate. So I think that's what everyone would expect.
I expect nothing less.
Yeah, look, there's a few ways I could go about this. We didn't really. You mentioned Silvani just briefly. Yep. Wasn't it good to just see him maturing as a player? Because a couple of years ago, we're sort of saying Silvani in or out,
For sure.
But now it's like, looks like a calmer head. He's developed a bit more, stronger frame, doing the things we need with the pinch hit, but kicking some goals and looking very attacking and very dangerous at moments throughout that game. How are you finding the wash up of the Silvani question mark that we kind of had on Kennedy sort of early last year?
We always know that he's going to do the heart and soul Blues things, like the hard tackles, the hard chases, just everything that we love to see. And yeah, that's always been the question mark for me. It's like, just a few more goals. We need more goals from our forwards. So, and I feel like he does look more threatening in front of goal this year. The contested mark that he took was great. The crumbing one off the back of Pitto was excellent. Yeah, I just go back to my original point from the start. We're never going to be a team where every player is going to have 20 plus touches. Everybody's going to have their role to play. And for him, if he's getting 15, taking 5 marks and kicking 2 goals and doing all the other sauce things that we know we're going to get, he's one of the most important players to our team for me.
Well said. Well said. No, we love Jay Sauce, and it's surely would have been illegal to put that surname out of the side for too long.
And speaking of heart and soul, I mean, I feel like we can never just go past the fact of how well Doc is playing, because he's come in so seamlessly. An awesome game last week, and I thought he was just great again this week. Great again. It's a luxury with the halfbacks that we're rolling through right now. And he's a guy that people are like, wing, maybe, could.
I did hear a bit of that in preseason, and there was a question whether he'd find himself on the wing. Yeah. I'm just trying to cast my mind back to how Vossi answered that question. I know he loves Doc sort of streaming at the footy, halfback, rebound, finding that, biting off the kick. And he's probably, now this would be good to get you to just mock up on the spot here, a bit of a list. Halfbacks or backmen biting off the kick inboard. Who's on your list down back there? So this is something I've noticed in the first couple of weeks. We are taking that kick. Whereas we used to sort of play that sideline, sort of side-to-side footy, I love us just looking like instinctively to the middle of the ground. It almost seems like we've got that triangle flow. So we switch it again, we get someone replacing from the middle, leads back into that spot, and we bite that kick off. It's a bit risky, but I'm loving it. I'm loving seeing it. And I know Voss loves Doc as one of those players who can bite that kick off. Who else are you putting on your list?
As in blokes that I'm happy to be biting that kick off, or that I think want to do it?
We'll create a second list, but on the first list, who are you giving the keys to sort of go forward with that kick? And we'll see who you've omitted from that list. But tell me, who's getting that kick?
I'd have Sard over Doherty. I'd have him as my number one bite
number
that kick
one,
off
Sard,
every day of the week.
Yep.
Now, honestly, I feel like in my head, Williams and Newman, in theory, they're the kind of guys that should be taking that kick. And then in practice, I feel like potentially not. Because Williams, I feel like he's a bit of like feast or famine with it, where he'll have a couple of absolute pearlers and you're like, oh, gee whiz, more of that. Bite off those 45s, but then also doesn't mind the occasional shank. So I'd probably put Sard and Doc in a tier above those two. But what about you?
No, that's fair. I think Williams, I've got no problems with us taking that kick for starters. Newman, I'm not so sure. And it feels bad to be saying it to my own kind, being the lefties there. But Yeah, I don't know. Sard, we can hold him up as one of the better lefties, if not best lefty in the side. And geez, can I just say, when you see Sard running at 100 miles an hour, like horizontally, and he is able to get that kick off, and it's
I
almost like
know.
his right quad is just like this thing that it's like it's like a big like column, like a Roman column, like he just plants it into the ground, and his left foot just he gets like 50 meters of purchase on a kick where his body's going like the other side. Like it's unreal. Like you think every player that you see streaming down to the boundary about to kick on their left, if they are a lefty, you go, oh, okay, they might kick this out on the full. Sard gets it back like 90 degrees back inside the middle of the ground. And you're just like, wow, like he's something like just so special to watch because he can do it off 2 steps, do it off 3 steps, and you do it off 100 steps going towards the boundary. So that's a bit of a lefty foot tangent that I've gone on, but
I also love a walking bounce from Sard. I love when he takes 3 steps, have a bounce, and then kick it just to get that bounce in there.
How about when he gets the ball and he bounces immediately, and he's had like 2 steps and he just goes, you know what? I've just taken the ball here, have a bounce, and then he's just like, what do I do now? And it was good to see. It was good to see. You know, that sort of confidence is what we love. You know, players taking the game on, and we really have only had the Coleman medal to cheer about last year, and now we get to actually cheer, you know, solid performances where we're hanging on and winning games. And I'm loving it. So
totally.
Dare we talk about next week?
Shall we move on? I mean, yeah, let's do it. I'll quickly just run through the listener votes as Ian asks every week on Twitter.
Yeah. Apologies.
3, 2, 1. I mean, hit me with who you think went the 3 because, you know.
So 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. So we've got, let me just see. There is 9 blokes received at least 1 vote. But give me who you think the top 3 were.
So top 3. So I'll go from 3rd. So I'll go
Brave.
I'm going to say Mackay for the steadiers, for setting the game up right. For Curnow to explode.
Love it.
And have some great attack on goal. And he's almost saying he's back there. But I honestly think as a spiritual leader, a contested bull and the game changer on the night, I think I give it to Cripps.
Yeah, you're right. Fogarty.
That's it. The Fogue. Who
Fogarty or Fog? I don't subscribe to Fogue. I'm a
Fogue just yeah. But you do say Fogarty. You said Fogarty before.
I go in between the two.
Brain fog or brain fogue, I should say.
Oh, all right. I'm ending the stream. Yeah, no, you're right. It was Cripps 78, absolutely storming the way. Curnow 42 in second, and we actually had Bam Bam with 13 in third, but Mackay was a close 4.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, look, just another one of those good news stories, isn't he, Bam Bam? But that's fair. I think casting my mind back to SEN's votes, because I did get in the car on Thursday night, sort of with enough time to listen to the wash up, but I think they had similar votes there. But funnily enough, Cripps was 3rd. So they went Cripps.
What?
Yeah, they did Cripps, Mackay, Curnow. Probably the good news story with Curnow, I think, is where they went.
Wow. Fair enough. Well, every single listener vote that we received was Cripps 3, and I'm with that. I thought he was.
Oh, I'm with it.
Far above.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Hawthorn next Sunday, Arvo. You going?
I'll be there. So I'll be debuting this season. Very pumped to Sunday, which we don't have a training on or a game. So I will be there with bells on.
Perfect.
I just caught news of Hawthorn's demolishing of Port.
Small win.
So
Adelaide Oval.
Very small. Yeah. I think like it's just fascinating, really. The McRae Pies, the new look Hawks under Mitchell and the Vossi Blues. I mean, is that the solution in 2022? Sack your coach and play champagne footy?
Wow, look, you're not wrong. I won't
Let's
say any
see.
more on that.
Hawthorn. So we're six on the ladder on percentage. Okay.
Mhm.
Is it too early, one, to be looking at the ladder, Lachy? Because I have,
Hmm.
a bad habit.
Yeah.
One of those blues that does like running the numbers, seeing what we've got week after week,
Me
and
too.
figuring out where we sit. But dare we say 3-0?
I mean, I'm like you. I've done the ladder predictor a few times in the last couple of days. I'm like, let's just have a look at what we're working with here. And I have sent
Yeah.
the ladder to a fair few people in the last few days, especially the day of when we were on top, even though we'd played an extra game than everybody else. But it still feels good. Yeah, look, you can't really take anything from the ladder, can you?
Nah, not yet.
It's interesting. It's interesting that the spotlight has been taken a little bit away from us with those performances. Rach and I went to the Pies game yesterday,
Yes.
Arvo.
Saw that.
Gee, you would have thought that you were watching Carlton 2018 football. It was disgusting, but they had a big win against the Crows. So yeah, look, I'm not reading too much into Collingwood's performance. I still think they're going to be one of the worst teams this year. But yeah, Hawthorn's interesting. At least a lot of people maybe in the back of their heads before this game yesterday were thinking that it would all right, this is going to be demolition territory for us, which is good. It brings us a bit back down to earth. It's like, all right, we're versing another lossless team. So yeah, the challenge will be there, but I'm excited.
Yeah, and I mean, like, great to have these challenges. That's what we want. Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle. Everyone loves playing at the G, the Hawks included, but it'll be good to test that. I know we obviously had a different style come from behind win at the G against the Tigers. We've had the tight Etihad Stadium, heavy contested ball, grinded out a win that we, were hanging on. What's the Hawthorn game going to look like? It's kind of nice to not feel it'll be a one-dimensional sort of result. Like, I feel like we could get on top in the mid pretty strongly.
Well,
feel like we can,
it's a pit revenge game, just quietly.
Yeah.
He's still hurting. The ex-Hawk himself. So yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, grudge match. God, you got to love sticking it to the Hawks. So they'll probably be up there on top 3 most hated teams for me.
Me too.
So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah. I've got a lot of old school mates that go for the Hawks, and I think just being able to clip their wings with their new coach and their start to the season be a nice result for us. So
yeah, I know they've just had the wood on us so much in our footy watching life as well. It's so rare to get a win against them. So we did last year, but
did you get to that Fev game where he went bonkers and hit?
Well,
I think he kicked it behind and hit the post. And was one of those. Yeah.
Oh,
Remember that one? Yeah, that one from ages ago.
I was there. I thought you were referring to the Buddy 100 Fev 99, which I rewatched the final quarter of the other night in honor of Buddy, and that just got my blood boiling. That's what they should be showing to the team this week, I reckon.
Because that makes you want to put like a hit out on Alistair Clarkson. And, in fact, I was reminded about that very game. And like just the beauty of seeing everyone roll onto the SCG for Buddy's 1000th. And then knowing that, he had that 100 and like, why would we have wanted to stop another player in all their greatness having that same moment? Like, why would we want to keep the fans, keep the game, keep the history books, keep that out of it? And I just look at that game with so much salt, as you could probably tell the sound of my voice. But, he had 3 players on him back then. Like, what were they doing? What were they thinking? That it would be a bad idea to just have the most berserk game in history that'll never, ever be replicated, probably, ever again?
Roughhead kicks his 5th goal for the quarter and then jogs back to defense while they're 70 points up to
it sickens me. It honestly sickens me.
After he's kicked 5 too. Like, Fev has kicked 5. Oh, anyway.
Whatever. So we should pump the Hawks this week and feel a bit better about ourselves.
And I really think we will. I am feeling really confident about it. I'm excited as well. obviously Ches should be good to go. Martin good to go. There's whispers that Stocks will be able to return maybe at VFL, but could AFL. And then there's the potential that I haven't heard any updates on McDonald. Maybe you have some insider goss, but there's potential that he could miss. Do you have any thoughts at this stage? Still a little bit away, but what changes we could make?
2 thoughts about the COVID boys. I was chatting to CJ about this before, because as you know, unfortunately, she's gone down with a positive case.
She's in our thoughts, CJ.
In her mind, the worst thing, like the thing that she would like to do the least, is play high-level sport after the week she's having. So I think it's an honest question. Like, do we expect Martin and Chera to just come back in and want to play AFL? Like, obviously want to play AFL footy, but like with COVID affecting everyone differently, are they just a lock in and we go, yeah? Or obviously they'll make that fitness test. They'll make that call. But that's just always when I hear like COVID protocol. I don't think it's automatically 1 week and they're back. I think
very true.
They'll respond to COVID in the way that they respond to COVID, and if they're good enough and they feel like they can give 110%, like we saw in round 1, absolutely, let's get them back in. I wouldn't rush blokes who've just come off having COVID as well. Like, I think we just take the long-term approach on that. Obviously, no brainer. Want Ches over Martin. Ches back in if he can. Yeah. So, with that being said, we can assume they both come back if they're fit and ready. And so, we briefly chatted about this. My outs, probably just from having the first 20 minutes of discussion. I know Omac is probably, that's the same back soreness or back issue from previous times. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect them to rush him back either. So, that's one.
Yep.
Chera and Martin obviously don't fill that void. Stock, would you play him right back in the AFL? Or would you run him through the VFL? Can people just get on Walshy's program? Maybe that's what we need to ask.
That's the real part about all
this. They on the same program?
What's with this guy? How does he do this?
Just raise a house down. So... yeah, look, I'm inclined to say Setterfield, Foe, Omac as the outs.
Yep.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but Martin, Chera, Stock if he's well. Otherwise, we're looking at, I hate to say it, it does pain me to say it, as one of our emergencies who did don the jumper at some point against the Dogs. Do you think he comes in for Omac? Like, who else is sitting there ready to go who knows the defensive system? I don't even like saying his name.
You'd fit right in on Carlton Twitter, mate, because, it is kind of a bit of a Voldemort situation. We had Mark on Twitter when we put the question out there. He wondered whether it was Young as a straight swap or if Kemp could be the guy. Personally, I would rather see someone like Kemp have a crack over Plowman. As much as Plowman I thought he had a good season last year. He did his role. I think where we're at as a team now, we have the luxury where we can try some things down there, and I would certainly have Young or Kemp to come in over Plowman if Omac can't get up.
So there's nothing wrong with Young, is there? Because I actually enjoyed watching him.
Me too.
Was it in our Pracky game? I think it's just our last Pracky game. Yeah.
Yep.
I enjoyed. Young looks like a blue. He actually looks like.
Agree.
He fits in. Looks like a blue. Plays for the jumper. Looks pretty confident. If that's a logical swap, absolutely, I'd go with Young because I just really enjoyed seeing what he brought in the Pracky game. And Kemp, obviously, I kind of see Kemp as one of those early stage stockers in my eyes. Don't know if it's because they look a little bit the same, but developing, coming along well. Again, likable Carlton player that isn't just there because we like him and has no game. He's there because we see something. We see something in Kemp that could be there long term. So Young or Kemp, that's a positive swap. I just don't like that Plowman has to be on our emergency list. Like, honestly, I saw something on LinkedIn. He accepted some internship for some job last sort of 6 months ago. And I I was hoping that by him accepting this internship, it would be full time, and he actually couldn't due to work obligations on the navy blue. And
You are
yeah,
off him.
I can't remember. I'm big time off Plowman. I just think enough's enough. I want to see Carlton take it seriously with him, and just never play him again. I think he didn't yes, he was kind of one of those players that was keeping things together down back, but when that's your option at keeping things together, is it any surprise we had the year that we had? Like, Plowman is not a premiership player for us. He's barely 22. Like, I would rather just see someone else like a Kemp, Young, anyone else, just anyone. I'm so off Plowman.
Well, I think one of the things that we liked about Plowman over these last few years, he seemed to be pretty reliable at taking that, like, the mid-sized forward. And we were like, and who else is there that could take that guy? Like, Stocker could do that in a few years, but right now it's Plowman. And I think we've already seen in the first game and a half that Plowman didn't play. Like, Williams was playing on Dusty when he went forward, Sard on Dusty. Yeah. With the system that we have now, we don't need someone like Plowman to just be a zero. Yeah.
And those players were in the side last year. So it begs the question. Like, I mean, I saw enough round 2. No, was it round? Yeah, it might have been round 2. Whenever we played the Pies in our first match last season, and Jamie Elliott was just, running off Plowman, kicking a bag on him. Like, that was enough for me to just say that, like, this is our option who is going to small forwards. Like, it just shows you how far we've come. Like, and I'm very, very pleased that Vossi's made that call and put Williamson and Plowman on the emergency lists, not just like getting games like weirdly for some reason. Like, Williamson is another one of those guys where was so bullish after that year that he had. God, the years emerging. Was that was the 20 season, wasn't it?
Must be.
That 2020 season, he was playing good footy, confident, just ran off the halfback. And then he went into his shell last year. I'm glad that I'm not the only one who's thought this, because seeing him on the emergency list actually kind of confirms a few beliefs that he is really fringe for us and isn't fitting in just as well. And obviously helps we have the midfield depth to take up a few more spots now. But I'm glad we made the call on Williamson.
Yeah. Well, on Young, he played in the VFL game on Friday, and I only watched a bit of it, but from all reports, he was quite solid down back, which was good. So, I'm very open to him coming in. The other guy who was apparently the best player in that game was Dow. So he's another one that is pushing. And for me, it's a big matter of keep pushing, and you're going to have to push the wall down to get in at this stage. I'm a Dow guy, but I think that's where it's at right now for coming back into the team. And that's why I'm maybe a bit different to you, where Ches, if you're a healthy mate, we're going to make room for you no matter what. I'm not exactly the same on Martin at this stage. I think, I don't know, especially after these 2 wins. Obviously, he was part of the first win. I'm interested to see. I haven't made my mind up, but I wouldn't just be like, "Yep, you're a lock to come in," and then someone like Fogarty or Setterfield come straight out after a loss. But
I actually tend to agree. I know I talked him up as being back from COVID, and we take him, but I wonder sometimes about Martin. Like, he looks the goods, like, does some things, but ultimately he's not our strongest player. And these are the situations we want to be in. Like, talking about Martin not getting a game. You know what I mean?
The big recruit from 2 years ago.
We have come a long way. And so I think it's a good conversation to have, and it shouldn't be off the table, just like Dow's having a run through the twos. Is Martin having to also prove something again? That might be too far-fetched for a few Blues, but I think when you do have, I'm just looking Honey back 3 to 4 weeks. Stock's obviously going to have a run, then he'll come through. Chera, obviously, Young, Kemp. We've got enough here. We've got enough to not be, so focused on just like Martin, just because he was an import. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Mate, I reckon you've done it. I reckon you've made it through your debut. How you feeling?
I'm well, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's been good. It reminds me of when we used to work together, and very reminiscent of a Monday morning wash up with you by the desk and chewing the fat. Yeah, but I'm glad we can do it on a more positive note, mate. It's good to see. I'm keeping a lid on it. I know you've already purchased tickets to the finals, but
of course.
Yeah, I'm just going to wait a little bit. Honestly, keep going, keep playing good footy, and we'll see. I think we'll see.
Well, appreciate you filling in for Ian, mate, and coming on. It was a great chat. I loved it. I'm sure we'll be getting a beer on Sunday, Arvo, at the G, which will be good.
Absolutely.
And and thank you to everyone that's listened this week. As always, at the Navy Blue Corner on Twitter and Instagram. And that'll do it for us. Go Blues.
Go Blues. Thanks, Locke.